Have you ever been in a conversation with someone about film and they said something along the lines of this? Movies are dead. They're all the same. There are no original ideas coming out anymore. It's all just sequels and big franchises. And you immediately want to slap them and call them an idiot? Because I generally do. The idea that cinema is dying has been thrown around a lot, and there always seems to be something new to blame. CGI, digital projection, franchise storytelling, prestige television, streaming services, etc. And for the briefest moment, some of these arguments might actually make sense, but then you start to do some research, and you'll come to an interesting discovery. People have been crying about the impending death of cinema for almost as long as cinema has been an art form. Let's take a trip back to 1927 to the release of The Jazz Singer. This was the first feature-length film to be marketed as a talkie, or a talking picture. Now, despite having aged very poorly due to, well, some decisions made in the makeup department and the storytelling, the film sparked the commercial shift from silent cinema to sound cinema. It was a huge hit, and everyone in the industry knew that this was the future. And many saw this as a step forward, presenting new opportunities for the medium, but it was not a change that was universally loved. Film critic Victor Shklovsky expressed that a talking film is as little needed as a singing book, and Britain's Paul Rotha made the assertion that a film in which the speech and sound effects are perfectly synchronized and coincide with their visual image on the screen is absolutely contrary to the aims of cinema. It is a degenerate and misguided attempt to destroy the real use of film and cannot be accepted as coming within the true boundaries of cinemas. God, Paul, words hurt, man. Even Alfred Hitchcock considered silent cinema to be the purest form, despite engaging in the talking pictures himself from a very early point in time. And yet, despite all of these claims, I think it's safe to say at this point that cinema has survived and even thrived as a result of the advent of talkies. There were also those who considered the introduction of color in film to be super gimmicky, despite filmmakers like George Méliès using hand-drawn color in his film A Trip to the Moon from 1902. And while you might argue that his use of color here is a gimmick, it adds to the film quite significantly and helps flesh out the world the film shows more than black and white could. In 1962, French film critic Francois Truffaut pinned the death of cinema on the first James Bond movie, Dr. No, for some reason. And then in the 1970s and 1980s, Steven Spielberg and George Lucas were apparently the ones harboring the doom of cinema with the creation of Jaws and Star Wars, respectively. I mean, really? Christopher Bray from The Spectator retrospectively refers to Spielberg as the man who killed the idea of cinema as a serious art form, saying that Spielberg's breakthrough picture, Jaws, was little more than a pumped-up Saturday morning serial and diminishing its value compared to the work of his peers. Lucas's Star Wars was also a throwback to the past, imitating the style of the Flash Gordon serials, but to diminish the artistic value of either film can only be described as pretentious. The two films led to the dawn of the blockbuster, sure, but calling that the death of cinema as an art form is just absurd. Tons of excellent films since then are clearly influenced by the works of Lucas and Spielberg. Former Variety editor Peter Bart thought that indie films were dying back in 2008. Yeah, we're 10 years later, and they seem to be pretty not dead, but hindsight's 20/20, I guess. And back to George Lucas for a second. The idea was thrown around increasingly that the prevalence of digital effects marked some destructive force, and Lucas did admittedly go way too far in his use of digital effects in the Star Wars prequels, and was apparently very reliant on them. As a result, the films look horribly fake, and did at the time and look worse now. But CGI is just a tool to be used in moderation. Used properly, you can do some really amazing things with CGI. Anything used too much can be damaging. Beer is delicious, but you shouldn't drink too much of it or you'll end up in the hospital. Then you look at Quentin Tarantino, one of today's best filmmakers, who's referred to digital filmmaking as the death spiral.
It does nothing for me. It does nothing for me. I mean, I actually think I'm getting gypped when I go to a movie and I realize it's either been shot on digital or being projected in digital. I mean, some people feel differently about this, but I think it's the death keel. I think it's the death rattle. And, you know, it's, yeah, I do. And I also have even another whole aspect about it. You know, I've always believed in the magic of movies.
Yeah.
And to me, the magic of movies is connected to 35 millimeter. Because everyone thinks, you can't help but think, that when you're filming something on film, that you're recording movement. You're not recording movement. You are just taking a series of still pictures. There's no movement in movies at all. They are still pictures. But when shown at 24 frames a second, through a light bulb, it creates the illusion of movement. So thus, as opposed to a recording device, when you're watching a movie, a film print, you are watching an illusion. And to me, that illusion is connected to the magic of movies.
Now, what he's saying about the illusion here is true, but there's more to the magic of movies than just that. The magic of movies is the worlds we go to, the characters we go with, the adventure, the emotions the stories bring. A talented creator can make some really incredible things when shooting on digital. Plus, digital cameras make filmmaking cheaper, thus opening it up to more people than ever before. Literally anybody can make a movie now. It might not always be good, but they can still do it. That means more movies and a greater variety of movies from people with diverse and different perspectives. Going back to my point about CGI, digital cameras and projectors are just tools. Use digital if your movie would benefit from it, or if you can't afford film, use film if that's what will make your movie better. And now we're back to the present, the now.
Now. You're looking at now, sir. Everything that happens now is happening now.
What happened to then?
We passed that.
When?
Just now.
Today's scapegoats seem to be the cinematic universe and the superhero. And now I'm not blind. I can see that superheroes are dominating the blockbuster sphere currently, and sequels are all over the place. But just like every one of these things we just discussed, this will not be the death of cinema. Superheroes are the current trend, not the final one. Eventually, this trend will end and another one will take its place. Just like the Western used to be the dominant genre, and it no longer is. And regardless of that, most of the superhero movies are pretty high quality and have gotten much better at differentiating themselves even within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy is an excellent display of both filmmaking and storytelling. Deadpool was a risky and unique film that broke records because of it and paved the way for Logan, which was one of the most emotional journeys that the genre has explored. Marvel's universe structure has allowed them to create the movie Infinity War, which was shockingly well handled and balanced, and would not be possible without the structure of the universe that they had built up beforehand. DC is struggling, but if they learn from their mistakes, they can still build something great too. The market may be covered in these types of movies, but it's not like they're bad, and if you don't like them, then just go see something else. If you really think superheroes are killing cinema, then go see different types of movies. Here's some alternatives all out right now. Support the types of films you want to see, or better yet, go out and make one. This movie, Tangerine, was shot entirely on an iPhone. You can do that too. If cinema ever does die, it will be because audiences have become apathetic and stop seeing movies and stop making movies. So no, cinema isn't dead. It's not dying either. Streaming services and prestige TV won't kill it either. It's new competition, and the movie industry needs to respond by making great things. If it's afraid for its future, that's it. As long as there are people with passion for cinema, cinema will continue to grow. Change is not a precursor to death. There's no need to be afraid of it. Change is just evolution and growth. So that's going to be all for me on this one. Let me know what you guys think, though. Do you all believe that cinema is dying? Do you think any of the things in the past have fundamentally changed it in a worse way? Let me know, and I will see you guys next Thursday. Until then, please like, share, subscribe, and have a great week, everybody.